So, a Russian blogger documented his trip handing off donations to soldiers, but in the process, gave away the location of an air defense unit in Crimea. This is the story of how open source investigators from the Ukrainian Molfar group used a social media video, a gas station, and publicly available satellite imagery to dial in the exact location of a Russian air defense unit. Today, we're talking with Maxim Horolsky, an OSINT specialist at Molfar. He walks us through the process his team followed, key indicators that stood out, and how they managed to piece it all together. For more details, the source investigation will be linked in the description below. And with that, let's get to the conversation. All right, Maxim, thank you so much for taking the time, sir. We've been able to chat with a couple of your colleagues at Molfar in the past. It's incredible work you guys are doing. So I'm looking forward to diving into this new one that came up.
Yep. Hi, Preston. It's great being here. Thanks for having me. And I'm sure we have plenty of new stuff, new interesting investigations, and I'm glad to be able to share this data with everybody.
So we had, and we'll have all of these in the description, but we chatted with one of your colleagues about Senej, kind of unmasking that Russian sabotage group. And then we had another one talking about locating a Russian drone factory. They were bragging about this great new drone factory they have. And you guys said, oh, there it is, right there on the map.
Just rewatched those older interviews yesterday.
Oh, they were great, man. Yeah, those are so cool. And then today, what I wanted to get into was this. It's kind of similar. It's this open source investigation you got, and I think it's kind of funny in a way is that you have a Russian media person going to a base, and you guys were able to take his media report and say, that's an air defense asset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, that's quite interesting because, of course, nobody would intentionally want to share such sensitive information. However, that individual who we got that video from is like a semi-public figure. He's like a blogger who shares his materials about helping the Russian military. And if his main activity is sharing something with his audience, he inevitably has to show something. And he wants his materials, his videos to look interesting for the people who watch it. And these basically leads to him unwillingly sharing something that he probably shouldn't have.
Well, let's dive right into that then. So when this video came out, I don't even know how to begin asking the question of how do you identify that this is a video that you should look into, because there's so much out there. But maybe let's start there. How did this hit your radar and say we need to spend time looking into it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually quite interesting, and it's quite a typical algorithm for working with such information. So basically, in Russia, they are now mostly using their own social media platforms, VK, OK, Telegram, etc. And there are plenty of special groups, communities that are devoted to this kind of content, and you can quite conveniently look for some relevant videos using just simple keywords. For instance, delivered aid to the military and stuff like that. And you just use some of such most obvious keywords, and sometimes relevant results like this video can eventually show up. And actually, this very blogger, he was our, let's say, usual suspect. It's not the first and only case when we found some relevant information. We just followed him, followed the updates, and eventually this helpful video for us, it eventually emerged. So actually, it's quite common for the volunteers and bloggers to share their road trips to the military. And so basically, yeah, it's the result of our browsing browsing the web and looking for something useful using keywords.
Do you prioritize what you're looking at based off of unit or capability? I'm thinking there are so many videos coming out all day, every day that you guys could not watch all of them. And it's not that important to say this is where that Russian trench is based off of that soldier, but very important to be able to say where an air defense facility is in Crimea.
Yeah, exactly. We do prioritize different targets, and here, when he directly says that he visits an air defense unit, so
That
well,
made it easier.
yeah, that's instantly seems rather relevant. And another thing, particularly about this example, is that in some areas it's quite challenging to find some specific building. I'm saying, for instance, if we're talking about some bigger cities, there you can see a lot of different buildings, a lot of everything's just bigger. However, in over here in this particular video, we see that it's not the density of settlements in Crimea, in that part of Crimea, is not that high, and we cannot instantly see that this particular air defense unit was located in a rather remote location, so that kind of helps us a little bit, and we already know that it wouldn't take us as long as for example, looking for a building in the city of Donetsk, which inhabited like 1 million people before the invasion.
Something that I think folks would be interested in here is this was not just a matter of, which is a skill in of itself, of just geolocating something and saying this is where that building is. But you guys, you kind of pieced one thing together after another after another. So if we start with, hey, this guy's visiting an air defense unit, when you start getting into the video, what was the next step in figuring out what led to this is where the location is?
That's a great point. So I would compare carrying out such investigation maybe to working with a puzzle. So you find one piece that fits another one. So and you add these little pieces, and in a little time, you just start seeing a bigger picture. So, for instance, in this case, on the video, we start with a rather distinctive place. There was this roundabout, and a gas station, and a monument of a tank there. So there are not so many places that just look just like that. We find this particular place, and it basically serves us like an anchor, so a starting point. And then after we and this particular roundabout where this blogger where we saw this blogger, it was in a central Crimea. So and we look on the map, on Google Maps, and we generally get the idea in which direction he was going. So he was going to the northwestern parts of the peninsula. So basically there was this one single highway, and we clearly we see the starting point, this roundabout with a tank and a gas station. See that he's going to the northwest, and we just follow his video and see some other distinctive locations, for instance, like a farm or something else, and just go along this map and try looking for these objects. And eventually we we managed to make a series of checkpoints to trace his location closer to the to where this air defense unit was stationed. However, obviously on his video, he doesn't really lead us right to the final location. We actually had to do some manual work. It took some time. And generally, we understand that it's somewhere in the northwestern part of the Crimea. And in this case, luckily for us, we see that there are not so many settlements in that area. There are not so many. The density of population is not very high. So on his video, we see the general. We see the general location of various buildings on that site. So and then we were able to draw like a basic schematic map of how many buildings, how are they, how they are located, so etc. So and then we just went through the map of that area, and it took us a little while to.
Well, before we get
Yeah.
to that, because you're at the location now, but I just want to stress how it's interesting that he was just filming his car trip, right? He was not showing military locations. He was not giving the address of where he was going, just casually, here we are driving, and that's enough with little clues in the background to give away, again, the location of, we know where that is, and we know that you're driving northwest, and there's this road, and it's crazy how those little details can come together.
Yeah, well, from the first glance, it may seem that it's like a needle in a haystack. However, we already have some information. We know where he was going from. We know the general direction of his movement. So and thus we managed to narrow down his the approximate area where he was heading. And moreover, if we look at the map, and we know that it's Crimea, and we know that it's an air defense unit. What does it mean? If we look at the map, we can see that if Ukraine launches some drones, some missiles, it's gonna go from the northwestern direction. So it would be rather obvious for their air defense to be located somewhere approximately in that area. So and if there were more settlements there, it would be harder job to actually find the exact location. But as the northwestern part of Crimea is mostly, it's not uninhabited, but it's mostly rural area with just fields and just several villages. And that's why actually I was quite shocked when a colleague of mine who was actually responsible for this work, I asked him, how many time exactly did it take you to narrow down the exact location when you just knew that it's somewhere in the northwestern part of the Crimea? And he said, well, it wasn't too long. It was like 30 minutes or something. Yeah, I honestly expected it to be quite a bit longer, but yeah.
Well, so yeah, you're not. I feel like you're underestimating how you guys are so good at this. You've been doing this for so long. I'm looking at the map, and we'll have this up on the screen. But to say we know there's an air defense asset somewhere in that general vicinity, and to dial it into a specific building, that is still a huge area to look over. When this doesn't have to be. I mean, it's relatively easy to hide these things. So You got the building layout here from when the soldiers finally, it seems like the first, from an outsider's point of view, it looks like the first slip up in OPSEC was he was recording when he was with the soldiers. Did
Yeah.
that help dial it in?
Yeah, right, exactly. So, we well, the key to finding the exact location was uh the general understanding how these buildings on that site are located. Well, we saw that, well, okay, here are some, probably something that looks like a farm. There were some hangars, some other buildings of some of them were kind of longish. The others were smaller, and well, we basically draw like a tiny map of how these different buildings at that location are, well, where they are situated
Hmm.
relative to one another. And then we go to satellite imagery and just go through all the settlements in that area, well, to check whether we can find something that looks like our little map that we have drawn before. And yeah, well, basically, as I have already said, thanks to the fact that well, that area is quite big,
Hmm.
but it's not very densely populated, so it's not as tough as it could be.
But then, so we've got that. Is there any sort of AI application that does that, or are you guys just staring at a map for hours on end?
Well, there are some AI tools indeed, but for these specific task, none AI was actually of use, and well, of course, AI is getting better, but at this very moment, I wouldn't call it like a huge game changer or something. So, well, there are actually some interesting tools, well, where you can just upload an image and it can suggest you the approximate location where it might be. It's not super precise, but sometimes it can help. But well, mm, at this period of time, I'm well. I think that artificial intelligence still lacks a bit compared to the traditional one.
I gotcha. That's tedious. It's tedious work to be in the weeds looking at that. So you guys got to the point of you've narrowed it down to there are at least soldiers around these few buildings, which
Mhm.
that is important, but that's not confirmation that those buildings are a base or that there's any air defense equipment there. You just know that there are soldiers there. What do you do then to refine that and say, no, it's definitely a military facility and here's why?
Well, yeah, to confirm our assumptions, we obviously have to check. Well, for this specific for this specific case, we can, for instance, look at historical satellite imagery on Google Earth Pro. Well, and see how everything was not only as of now, but over the past years, and well, maybe to check whether there was some construction or some other activity, some vehicles coming and leaving, street view photos, maybe some uh, um, mm, well, some content on social media with geotags
Hmm.
in this area. So also mm, another interesting direction is ad int. So ad for like in advertising. So when we can check a certain area for well unique device IDs. We don't know the phone number or something. They just unique and anonymous. And sometimes we can also, if we know that this device was spotted in this location, so we can then try to see other locations where this device has previously been. So, and for instance, if we know that there's one device ID at this location, which we suspect of being an air defense base, and we track these device to have been, for instance, at the, some other military base in Russia a couple of months ago.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that definitely wouldn't be just a coincidence,
Wow.
right?
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So you can look at that and say this guy was at this phone was at these other military bases in the last 3 months. Like it's a probably a good assumption that he's at a military facility. Okay.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. Such software, such solutions were initially intended for marketing use, for advertising, but now we can see that it's quite applicable in the military and other types of open source intelligence investigations as well. So that's another thing. And coming back to just not some uh, sophisticated tools, we can see on this video from this blogger that this area is restricted and ordinary citizens just wouldn't be able to enter. So that pretty much serves as a proof that it's not just a random place, but a dedicated military-related location.
There's something ironic here about how the blogger went out to support the unit and share about the unit, and in the process gave away their location.
Yeah, indeed. So you see, that's maybe we can say that's because of the human nature. Because what is this blogger's goal? Of course, he probably wants to support the Russian military, but as his main activity is posting stuff online, he needs to create relevant content for his audience. Well, and if he just keeps low profile, follows OPSEC procedures, and doesn't post much of interest, in this case, his content probably wouldn't be that impressive for his followers, right? So that's why he just probably thinks that, okay, I can show this little bit of something, but who's gonna investigate that? It's just just some random video on the internet. And probably it's just underestimation of the potential risks. Yeah.
Molfar is going to investigate it. That's what he wasn't looking into. And I think it's worth stressing here because we're talking about the verification and what you guys do to that end. You are an independent, you're a private organization. So this information can then be made available to a military, Ukraine, and they could use that to carry out strikes. But that then falls on them to verify and authenticate and all of that. So your process kind of stops at that. Hey, here's what we found. We're pretty certain this is an air defense location, or it is.
Yeah, right. So obviously, when we carry out the analysis like this one, we try to come up with as much actual evidence and proofs as we can.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to military, obviously they do have their own procedures and assessment algorithms, However, in this specific case, I would say that given all the evidence that we can actually see here, the probability of some sort of coincidence
Yep.
and or some or mistake is basically non-existent.
Do you guys follow up on this to look back in a week, a month, 6 months to see if that location was? I mean, it very well might be in drone footage released by a Ukrainian unit in a few weeks.
Well, as a general rule, yes, we do. However, I'm not honestly, I'm not really sure what actually happened to this specific location. Because this video is back from 2023, if I'm not mistaken, and
Oh, interesting.
yeah. So and we have made it public just recently. So
Yeah.
now that it's it doesn't now that it doesn't carry too much military value, and it's basically safe to share with the public. Yeah, but now recently we've seen that the strikes from our military in Crimea have been quite intense.
Yep.
So if they thought that it's a worthy target, so um, the cards were in their hands, of course.
So if this was 2023, it's right there at the top, and I skipped right over that part. But all of this information was available in 2023. You're just showing kind of the ability of OSINT right now. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's just so basically we decided to share this specific case because it's quite a valuable target for the Russians.
Yeah.
So a defense unit, and uh, despite the fact that obviously OPSEC procedures are getting better, but
Mhm.
still sometimes people like these blogger, they just make rather simple mistakes, and it takes just less than a day to track down the exact location, and that's probably a good illustration of what GeoInt skills can do. Yep.
It's impressive. Maxim is last question is it's Sergey, I believe, the Russian blogger here. Is he still? Are you guys still? I mean, is he still slipping up from time to time?
Well, you see, he's been such a great assistant for us that maybe we should ask him to join our team if he's
Love it.
yeah.
There we go. Well, Maxim, thank you so much for taking the time to walk through all
Yeah.
of this. Really, really impressive work what you guys are doing.
Yeah, thanks, Preston. It's been a real pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, sir. All right, so thank you so much to Maxim and the team at Molfar for taking the time to walk through all of this. Again, we've done a couple conversations with these guys in the past, and it's always just mind-boggling what they're able to pick apart using publicly available information. I feel like the term OSINT gets thrown around anytime somebody like looks at a map anywhere, and these guys do a really good job of kind of breaking it down to all of the details, all of the nuance that is required for actual open source investigative reporting. But again, check out more of their work at the link in the description below. That's all we got for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all next time.